Welcome back. We're here continuing our reflections for the 14th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Teresa's going to read to you from Matthew's Gospel. It's Matthew, right?
Yes.
I knew it.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus exclaimed, "I give praise to you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth. For although you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, you have revealed them to little ones. Yes, Father, such has been your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wishes to reveal him. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart, and you will find rest for yourselves. For my yoke is easy and my burden light." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Now, we do this reading very often, very frequently for funerals. And it's really just one of those beautiful readings that we get whenever we get it, it's great. For funerals, I almost always comment immediately on how calming effect that this has on me. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. It's really a beautiful, rich understanding of how we approach the person of Jesus Christ. I don't know the exact translation in this one, but I always remember it. I give you thanks, God, that you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, but revealed them to the childlike. I think it's different words here, but I like childlike better. Don't tell anybody who thinks this translation is perfect. But it reminds us that we are to remain like children, to remain humble. There's another reading from Matthew's Gospel that we've had many times at weddings this year, and I think 4 of our weddings, maybe the last 4 in a row, have had the same reading as "You are the salt of the earth, you are the light of the world." And you have this constant message to ordinary people that that God has given us, given those normal, ordinary, nothing too terribly bright or brilliant about them, everything. And I don't mean that in any kind of denigrating way, because it certainly is a great wonder when you encounter people that they're hungry for God. It's one of the flaws in religion that creeps up. It's not been in balance for the last 60 years anyway, or maybe the last 2,000 years. It's shifting balance. Is that we have this: to be Christian, you have to be this kind of person. You have to do things this way. In Jesus' time, to really know the true way, you had to follow this teacher's path, this rabbi's path, or this rabbi's. And you end up with these factions, you end up with these differences, and you end up missing the fact that Jesus calls people to himself that are very normal. In all of the wonder and extraordinary greatness that's involved with being normal. There's a saying, I think, of G.K. Chesterton that says, "God talks most effectively to yokels." We don't use that word very often anymore, yokels. But God talks very effectively to yokels, to people who are hungry. And no matter how you approach your faith, no matter how you approach God in communion, no matter how you approach your life, be yourself. Don't be haughty. Don't think because you follow this blog that you know everything. Don't think because you have a degree in theology that you know everything. Don't assume that someone who looks at things differently than you do knows nothing. And that's a very harmful way of approaching the life of faith. So we remember that. We remember that with true earnestness, that we come to him simply. Remain like children. Unless you remain like children, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven, he says elsewhere, as we know. So we remember how important it is for us to stay simple. One of the things that we ought to notice, and it got some correction since the pandemic, but needs a little bit more of a conscious and intentional awareness on our part is that when we get to a point where we're too comfortable, you have things enter into like haughtiness and entitlement, and that's my right. You know, it's an interesting thing, because you were invited to the wedding feast of the Lamb. A person invited to the wedding feast of the Lamb, or another parable, the son of the king, invited to the prince's wedding feast. They don't make any demands on the person offering the invitation. It would be unheard of if you got invited to somebody's house and you said, well, I'll only come if you make this. People have probably said that to me and I was okay with it, but maybe they just were hungry for that. But you would never do that, right? It's an unthinkable thing. So when you come to Mass, understand you have no real rights. You're just happy you were invited. And you hunger for what you receive. You hunger for Christ, whom you receive not only in sacrament, but in word as well. And it's a wonderful gift for us to celebrate and to realize the immensity of that wonderful call to us. So we take that for what it is today, and remember, the most important thing when you're standing in that communion line is to be hungry. It's not the position of you receive in. We allow to. It's not that. It's are you hungry? Are you hungry? Do you need God? And it's those people, those simple people who know that God can give them the rest that they need, that is the answer, that is for whom He is easiest for Him to communicate with, okay? So be good, have a great week. It's very hot here, and it's unusual for me to say something like that, but it is very hot here today, so be careful wherever you are, especially if you're in Western New York. But wherever you are, may you really and truly hunger for Jesus Christ, who gives us our life.